I've played a lot of chess in 2025 so far. I've had my best tournaments ever and my worst tournaments ever. I'm going to share with you my journey this year so far, including my 60 over the board classical rated games, my online ratings, and some key games this year so far. So strap in, and hopefully we both learn something along the way. So this is my event table. In this table, I have all the events I've played in 2025 and prior. So you can see the rows that start with 2025 for the event ID. Those are the events that were in 2025. So I've played 14 events in 2025 so far, and currently I'm at 1974 USCF. I'm about 2150 on chess.com. I started this year at like 2120 or 2220 at chess.com, but I've fallen since then. I'll show my chess.com ratings a bit later. So I'm a relatively decent amateur player, and I've had a very up and down year so far. So if we look at this post-event rating, starting at the beginning of 2025, I started around 1938. I had, 1925 really. But then I had a couple of okay events, gained a little bit of rating, and I had one of the worst events I've ever played. I lost against like a 1200, and let me actually pull up this game. So this was one of the most heartbreaking games I have played. So this was game in 40, delay 5. So all the games I've played, all the 60 USCF rated games, there was a wide range of time controls. The shortest time control I played was game in 30, delay 5. And the longest time control I played in the 60 USCF rated games was game in 90, increment 30. So very, very wide time control. So this was shorter. I think it was game in 30 or game in 40. I think probably game in 30. And this game is the game that I should win. And it was the first round of the Myerstown Winter Swiss, and my opponent played a weird sideline where he gave the light squared bishop in the Caro-Kann very easily, and I just have a very, very pleasant position. I gain space on the queen side, and I have this nice central pawn presence, and I end up making the decision to shut the position down completely. I think I should have maybe even opened up this position a little bit more, but instead I close everything down. His knight can't get to b3, to c5, and I'm just enjoying a slightly better position with a little bit more space, but it's not super clear how I'm going to progress. I get my knight to this very beautiful d6 square where it controls everything, and we start maneuvering, and he starts to repeat moves. He goes king g1, king f1, king g1, king f1, and it was so annoying, and I knew I was better. And eventually I striked in the center with e5. But I ended up screwing up the position in low time. Like here I had less than a minute on the clock, I had seconds on the clock, and here I end up losing the game. I stopped notating, so I don't have the rest of the game, but eventually I just lose my queenside pawns, and he promotes and wins the game, and it was very heartbreaking. And it was one of these games, I highlight this game because it was one of those games where I did not want to be there anymore. I did not want to be there. And if we go back to the spreadsheet for a second, I ended up losing another game later in the tournament, and it was absolutely abysmal. I scored 2 out of 4, so not bad, but I lost to lower rated opponents both times, and it was awful. I was just too slow. I was way too slow in that tournament, and it was the first time in a while where I was like, I don't want to play. I did not want to be there. So that was my only tournament. My last tournament in January. I didn't play for a month or so, maybe more like 3 weeks. But I played in US Amateur Team East, and I had one of the best tournaments I've ever had. I scored 5.5 out of 6. So I went from an absolutely horrendous tournament, one of my worst tournaments ever, to an absolutely spectacular tournament. I've only gained 27 points from the 5.5 out of 6 because I was playing down sometimes, and I have one of the most dramatic games of that tournament where I spill water on the board, a GM yells at me, my opponent is shaking his head in disgust. It was one of the most wild games ever. So just not which has happened on the chessboard, but outside of the chessboard. I thought I was dead lost in a position where I'm slightly better because my brain wasn't working properly because I was so frazzled by spilling water everywhere and people yelling at me. It was crazy. But that tournament was wild. But it was a good event. It was a good event. 5.5 out of 6. I ended up having a decent event at the Anvil Quads. I only lost to a 2150. And then I played this tournament, the Newcomb Memorial. This was an absolutely crazy event. The first round I beat this like 1700 little kid, and in the second round I played 2100. Let me show this game. So this game I play the fantasy variation, and this is kind of the first and only time I blew someone off the board. Like in this position, he ends up doubling my pawns and then castling, and I sacrificed the rook, and I just absolutely just attacked and attacked and attacked. All my moves were very easy to find. It wasn't a very impressive game per se because all I did was sacrifice a rook and then play some normal moves after that. But, you know, he resigned on move 19. And, like, it's the first game where I really dominated someone who was, you know, much higher rated than me. You know, he's like 2100 and a very good player. He went on to win an event after this or something like that. And he just had a bad game, you know, right? Like he allowed me to sacrifice my rook, but it still felt good and it really helped my confidence. And after this game, I'm gonna pull up back the Excel sheet. So this view is of the game view. So I had the table sheet, the event table up, but now I have the game table up. So you can see my opponent's names here in the top, and then the results here: green for win, draw for blue, and orange for loss. So as you can see here, against Andrew, one of my higher rated wins ever in a spectacular fashion. So I start this tournament at Newcomb Memorial. I started with 2 back-to-back wins. I was absolutely dominating, and then I played with my opponent Sandeep. And that was the most painful game. Like I thought, okay, my game against whatchamacallit, my game against Sam, where I lost that, very painful. Very painful. That's my loss to the 1375. That I felt like I was better for most of the game and I screwed it all up and I'm so bad at chess, you know, like this game blew that game out of the water. This game was absolutely devastating. It was a 5-hour barn burner. And, you know, I just came off of 2 wins. I'm feeling great. And I know that I can win it once again. I can do this. I can apply pressure. I can win 3 times in a row. And this can be my best tournament ever. I might have my best tournament ever. I could absolutely do this. And we reached this very simple middle game here. Not very simple, but very common opening. Very common middle game resulting from an opening. And he ends up playing very unthematically. Like here, with white's pieces like this, white should start a kingside attack. But instead, he drops his rook back, and he ends up playing g3, and look at this. And I know I just have a very pleasant position, but I mess it up. I mess it up. And I go from being on the offensive to being on the defensive. He infiltrates my position here, and I am on the back foot. I'm just suffering, and we're in this time scramble of 90 plus 30, but that's a second time control after move 40, and we're in the. I'm shuffling. I'm like barely surviving here, but then suddenly I get my queen out here, and maybe I'm gonna soften up his king side, and you know this game lasted so long. It was my 4th game that lasted over 5 hours, and here it is, h4. And I am moments away. In my head, I calculated after bishop takes, queen takes, the king moves, I take his bishop. But I realized after I put my knight on e4 that check he can block with the bishop. And I thought, oh my gosh, I blundered. And I have 5 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds. I play rook a7. I do not play this move. I do not play knight takes e4. But I should have. Or not knight takes e4. Sorry. I don't play queen takes f4. I'm misspeaking here. Because I did not see rook a7. But rook a7 would be winning here because I'm going to infiltrate and win the bishop and checkmate the white king. Like, I'm just absolutely winning here. But I see the boogeyman, and I end up trading queens, and we go into this endgame where I'm worse. I lose all my pawns, and I end up losing the game, and I was absolutely devastated here. And the reason why this is so important, because if you go back to the Excel sheet here, it was my first of 6 losses in a row. Oh wait, you can't see it because my face is in the way. I have never felt so bad before in my life. Like, I thought the tournament at Myerstown was the worst tournament I've ever had, but it wasn't. Like, these 6 losses were spread out between 3 tournaments. It got to the point where I would sit down and be like, I hope I don't lose this time. And probably my most pathetic game in my 60 games I've ever played, 60 games this year so far. My most pathetic game was this one, where I have the black pieces and my opponent plays a Queen's Gambit, the exchange variation. Queen's Gambit declined exchange variation, I should say. And I end up blundering a rudimentary tactic. Knight takes d5. If I take his knight, he smothers my queen. And I was like, oh my god. I'm going to lose another game. And this was my 5th game in a row that I lost. And he ends up just getting a pawn up position. But it's not the end of the world. You know, I mean, I'm losing, but it's not the end of the world. And I end up, we end up trading more pieces. And the thing is, I absolutely crumbled this game. I was thinking, like, oh wait, maybe I might be able to hold on to this game. No. I blunder this move. And then later on, I give him even more chances. I think that was the main chance here. Yeah, I think I should have played... Here, I should have gone rook e8. But instead I'm like, oh wait, I don't need to, because after the rook takes the pawn, I can go rook e8 check. Then his queen cannot defend his rook. I'm like, no, queen c7. And I was like, what? I thought my rook was defending these squares and these squares at the same time, but it was not. And I end up completely falling apart this game. My defense skills, 0. 0 defense skills. And I was absolutely devastated that game. I kept losing to people 200, 300, 400 points lower rated than me. And it was tough. It was tough. And I reached my all-time low in the last 9-10 months of 1862. So as you can see here, 1862, after the Pennsylvania State Championship. And that was tough. That was tough. But then starts my greatest... But that's the thing, though. Like, that's the thing, though. This time was very turbulent for me. These, where I went all the way back down to 1800, I was in my last semester of college. I was starting a new job. I was going to start a new job. And I had a lot of things going on. And I lost all my confidence. So that confluence of factors there, I think, was a big contributor to that. But after these games, I have now played, I think, 23 USCF rated games. And look at these W's. I have went all the way down from 1862 to over 100 points higher, 1974. And I gained all the rating points I lost in 3 tournaments in 1. I went 4.5 out of 5 at the Central PA Championship. I did okay at the Lehigh Valley Open. I had 1 loss to a national master and a draw against 1700. And in these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 events, I have not lost to anyone below 2200. So I made a huge comeback, and I am still in that comeback. This Exton Open was 2 weekends ago, so not last weekend. So as I'm recording this on June 12th, but yeah, and I've been having a really great turnout, really great test. I feel really confident. I feel really good. And if you look at this graph, the last time I was in the 1970s was back in last September. So 9 months ago. I'm at the rating I was 9 months ago, so I'm all the way back there. I reached 1996 last year. Where was it? Oh, I guess I was 1996 here. So yeah. Oh, I guess October I was 1984. But I've been on a downwards trend since my peak of last year, going all the way back to low 1900s, and but now I'm back to mid to high 1900s. So it feels good. I'm playing in a tournament on this Sunday, the Frederick Showdown, and I might lose all my games there, and I could go back to 1800. But honestly, if I look at the graph, I have a graph here from the USCF website. I'm going to zoom out here. So honestly, one thing I've learned is that the bigger the dip, the bigger the spike. So here you can see back in 2023, I reached 1800 for the first time, high 1800s, and then at towards the end of 2023, then I dipped all the way down to low 1800s, and I spiked back up. I dropped all the way back down low, then I spiked back up and spiked back up, to higher peaks before, and once again, and then this little area in 2025 here, I dropped like crazy, but then I spiked back up higher than before. So I think one thing I've learned this year in 2025 is that it is okay. It is okay. It is okay to have these bad tournaments. More than it's okay, it's normal. Looking at this graph now, like this is normal. The peaks and valleys, this is normal, I think. And yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a big emotional journey for me. But yeah, it feels good to have my confidence back. I am the type of player that I have a low online rating for my over the board rating. Most 1900 plus rated players have much higher chess.com ratings than me. And that reminds me, let me bring up my chess.com. So here you can see my blitz rating is 1900. This year so far, I have reached my peak in the last, I think last week actually. So if I go back to, so as you can see, so I've been always a volatile blitz player, but if you go back here to beginning of 2025, so I've been around the 1900 level, dropped down to low 1800s. And now I'm doing pretty good in blitz as of recently. For my rapid, I did reach a peak of like 22. Well, that's not my rapid. As for my rapid, I did reach a peak of like 22, 26 this year, which felt pretty good. And I first reached 2200 back last year, and I didn't play much rapid. But now because of the grind to 2300. Chess.com Rapid series I've been playing more Rapid, and so far commentating my games as I'm playing them has not been too eventful or too good for me. I've lost a lot of rating recently, but it's okay. Like there was that one period of time where my blitz rating dropped, my rapid rating dropped, and my classical over the board rating dropped, and it was pretty brutal in terms of confidence and in terms of my emotions too. It's pretty brutal. But it's easy for me to say that it's all part of the process now, since I'm doing pretty good. Like I'm doing this mini review at a point where I just happen to be doing really good. I've gained a little bit of rating over Rapid. Won my last couple of Rapid games. I have won so many over the board classical games recently, and I'm near my peak again. And I'm doing well in Blitz too, to top it off. But hey, the world can become crumbling down on Sunday. I could lose 50 rating points, but that's normal. I'm going to keep that in mind. I'm going to keep on going. I do want to reach 2,000 in USCF. I do want to reach 2,100 USCF. I do want to reach 2,200 USCF. one day. But I'm going to keep it one step at a time and keep going. And hopefully you guys found this interesting. I'm kind of indulging myself with this video a bit, but I think it's okay. But yeah, let's see you guys in the next one. Peace.